Alright, I've been doing a lot of Geonosian Brood Alpha testing, and I'm just gonna say it right now, just at a 4-star testing, it was 4.mods, Geonosian Brood Alpha is a very good character that completely transforms the Geonosian faction, and dare I say, with the future reworks happening for the current Geonosians we have in the game, this team could potentially be flippin' broken, but it's so much fun though. All right, so in this video today, we're gonna break down this character. We did a 4-star testing and all this footage, and I only had 4.mods because all my mods in this test account are 6.mods. So obviously you can't put 6.mods on a 4-star character. And the great thing we have to put out right away, this character is super free to play. It's been ages, maybe over a year, maybe 2 years since a character went straight free to play on the Cantina table. So that is great to see how easily accessible this character is. And so this is going to be a character a lot of you guys are going to be able to get up to 7 stars quite easily. And this character is important for the Geonosis territory battle mainly. But beyond that, you guys are going to get a lot of bang out of your buck from this character, especially in Grand Arena. So what makes Geonosian Brood Alpha even good at 4 stars before even getting it to 7 stars, gear 12, and heck, maybe gear 13 down the road? Really, it comes down to a few things. First of all, this is a 2-for-1 special thing. You get a support character, Geonosian Brood Alpha himself, who completely transforms the faction through his leadership as well as through his Queen's Will unique ability, which has this hive mind mechanic. And the best way to describe it is constant Barris equalization anytime. Anytime an ability is used by the enemy, whether it's a healing ability the enemy's using, whether they're trying to throw up a taunt, whether they're trying to just grant buffs, you're going to equalize the Geonosians nonstop every time an ability is being used. And the other thing is, with this hive mind mechanic, you're always going to be spamming assist after assist anytime your Geonosians are using any type of ability, whether it's putting up a taunt with Sun Fact, using offense up with Paga the Lesser, or anything in between that. Your Geonosians are going to constantly be called to assist, which allows characters like Sun Fact, who's going to be a key character for this team, to constantly use his basic ability and dispel. And every time he's using his basic to dispel, he's going to be recovering 20% max health and massive amounts of health still. I just showed you guys a second ago that Sun Fact can get 20% of his health regenerated when he's just using his basic ability dispelling a buff. He's also going to get plus 50% health steal. So this team has super high survivability, some of the highest survivability I've seen in this game in ages, and it takes a long time for so many teams to beat this. Even Bas-Lashan with some crazy Jedi struggle beating this team when she's on offense and she loses to Geonosians on defense. Like, what the heck? Now there's 2 Zetas for this ability. One's on the leadership, which grants 10% more damage for each buffed enemy, which is okay. It's nothing too crazy. It is nice though. But the other thing is really the Queen's Will Zeta. That's what you're going to want to have, because this is a 2-for-1 special character. You're getting an amazing support character for your Geonosians, and when you Zeta this, you're going to be able to summon a Geonosian Brood Alpha at the very beginning who can taunt for 1 turn, because normally you'd have to use conscription to call in a Geonosian Brute in to kind of taunt for you. But with that Zeta on the unique ability, it just automatically comes in with a taunt ready to go. So this conscription ability becomes more powerful, because if there's already a Brute on the field, he's going to also grant that Brute critical damage up and offense up for 2 turns. And this ability as well is a massive turn meter, health, and protection regeneration too. So besides the massive amount of equalization going on, you're also going to be getting tons of health and protection recovery. And with the Geonosian Brute, this guy, holy cow, especially with that Zeta, he becomes basically this Brood Alpha, because you get 2-for-1 special. You're also getting basically a pre-taunting character, and pre-taunting characters are such an important mechanic for a lot of decent teams out there. So that's why the Zeta on the Brood Alpha is so important. But this guy as well, his taunt and with the equalization going on, the hive mind mechanic, this guy can be pretty difficult to put down, and his abilities are okay. They're not like the most crazy things in the world, but the thing to really point out is how annoying this character is going to be, because he has an IG 100 mechanic, the Magna Guard that is, where anytime he's using an ability, it doesn't really matter, he's going to taunt with his basic attack. So he's going to be counterattacking a lot. He's going to get taunt for 1 turn. So it's much like how the Magna Guard's rework is working now, where anytime he's attacking out of turn, anytime he's using an ability, he's just going to be taunting. So that's kind of why you want to have a full Geonosian team, which makes me think we're going to get more separatists. So you have a full Geonosian team, you got a full Newt Gunray or Dooku team, and then you got a full General Grievous team. So what I'm going to do now is cycle through some footage while we talk more about this team, because I went up against pretty much every single team, basically from like tier 3 to tier 0. If you've watched my video, I ranked all the teams in the game currently, which is really important for Grand Arena. And even at 4 stars, the best team this team can beat on offense and defense is a Basilisk Shan team. I mean, that's a pretty significant team to take out. And it's just because of how much health and protection regeneration happens on this team. And the equalization makes it hard for single ability attacks to really do much. And just when you're trying to heal up your team, or if you're trying to just spread some buffs with Yoda, you're going to keep triggering this healing equalization. And then when you keep topping off with more health because of their health steal and also the recovery through the conscription ability, it gets really difficult to put this team down. So teams like Basilisk Shan struggle. Almost every tier 2 team in this game, that means first order, bounty hunters and whatnot, they struggle up against this Geonosian team. The only team that really causes a lot of trouble for this in that tier 2, tier 1 bracket for the most part is going to be teams like Night Sisters. Whether it's with or without Emphas Nest, the Geonosians struggle because of the days, for example, or because of the stuns. Because if you, the goal is to take out the Geonosian team as quickly as possible, is you have to take out the Brood Alpha. He connects everyone together, and once he falls, the team is done for, and it's basically an old school Geonosian team, which is garbage right now. And keep in mind, I said right now, this team is going to definitely improve in the future. Once they release those Geonosian reworks, whatever they're going to do, I can only imagine this team is going to get so much deadlier than it currently is. But the things that really shut down this team, I kind of hinted it at right now. I mean, assuming the Geonosians don't get cleanses and tenacity up and whatnot, that's going to be a really big problem to deal with against this team. Dazes are so important because with the massive amount of assists they're doing every single time, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to shut them down and stop the assist that they're going to be doing over and over again, stopping Sunfac, for example, from using his basic ability every single time, dispelling your taunts. Stuns are going to be important. You want to try to stun the Geonosian Brood Alpha because he's the one that connects everything. He's the one that kind of gets the team going. So if you stun him, he can't use conscription. He can't use his AoE abilities. He can't use his basic abilities. So he's an important character you want to take out as fast as possible. And once you take out the Geonosian Brood Alpha, game is over for them. You can auto it. But the problem is, if your team doesn't have, let's say, a buff dispeller, because buff dispellers are also going to be important because you want to try to control the taunts. You're going to have 2 taunting tanks on this team. You're going to have the Brute that the Geonosian Brood Alpha calls, and you're also going to have Sunfac. So 2 tanks on this team that are being called to assist nonstop. So you want to try to get characters, plenty of characters that can dispel buffs so you can get around them and get straight to the Geonosian Brood Alpha. So buff immunity is going to be so important to stop them from being able to get taunts over and over again, especially for the Brute who keeps taunting with his basic. Another problem is that you're going to be facing is that the single abilities aren't really going to do much, because right before, let's say you're going to try to use Grandmaster Yoda's major attack, right before he even hits, let's say, the Brood Alpha, they're going to quickly heal equalize, get ready for a big attack coming. So if your attack isn't big enough, it's not going to put much of a dent in. So really, the way to take out these characters fairly easy, which is why characters like Darth Revan and Jedi Revan and Commander Luke Skywalker are perfectly fine up against this team. Even Grievous is not going to have any struggles up against the Geonosians. You need to quickly just get around the tanks as fast as possible. So Jedi Knight Revan allows you to mark the Geonosian Brood Alpha, hit auto, game over. Darth Revan quickly pulls off the taunts due to his fear mechanics. Grievous has a lot of buff dispels and massive AoE abilities, so the Geonosian Brood Alpha can barely stick around. Commander Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, they can ignore taunts. Han Solo ignores taunts at the beginning, stuns the Brood Alpha. Commander Luke Skywalker can get around all the tanks as well. So teams that can avoid the tanks are going to do fine, but it needs to be a frequent avoidance. If it's only a once in a blue moon avoidance, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle because these constant taunts up in your face makes it really hard to get to the core center of the Geonosians. So what are the downsides right now with the team? And I think it's really hard to talk about them because everything I'm saying right now is it's going to be changed soon. This is just right now a 4-star Geonosian Brood Alpha with 4 dot mods, and as well as all the unreworked Geonosians doing already so well, and they're bound to get better. But I mean, if we just want to talk about what's their weaknesses right now, the main weaknesses is that they're damaged throughout the whole team, even with the Zeta on the Geonosian Swarm Leader ability to increase the damage output for buffed enemies with the basics. Geonosians still hit like wet noodles, but the thing that compensates for it is the constant assist no matter what's happening on their team. So they're going to be called to assist so much, so just kind of overrides the low damage output. But when you're going up against a Night Sister team, you'll see in the footage that there's so many times I'm so close to taking someone out, but the amount of damage the Geonosians are putting out are just way too little. And really the other problem is, I mean, this is going to be addressed soon, is that the current Geonosians that we have, they're just so outdated. But luckily, because of just how the Geonosian Brood Alpha ties everyone together, honestly, I think I'd be satisfied if this team just didn't get a rework, because my concern is, I have a legitimate concern seeing how they're already kind of playing around with a lot of these tier 2 teams that we have in the game, and tier 1 teams, some of the tier 1 teams. It could get dangerously annoying if they crank up the power even more, especially if all the massive assists that are happening over and over again. This team is on the brink of becoming probably a little bit too overpowered for the type of faction that it is. But it's so much fun for the person playing with the Geonosians. But I'm just going to tell you now, this is probably going to be one of the most annoying teams to fight if you're not using the right lineup. So like teams like Palpatine, Traya, Grievous, Revan, both Revans that is, and Night Scissors are right now the best ways to take out this Geonosian team. Other than that, it's going to be a pretty tough team to beat due to how the mechanics work, and especially that just the Hive Mind mechanic is the problem. But once you get rid of Hive Mind, which is by taking out the Brood Alpha, it's no longer a problem. That leak we talked about the other day suggested it, and the developers way back when during a Galactic War podcast at Star Wars Celebration heavily suggested it. Geonosians are going to be important for the Geonosis territory battle that has already started. So this is going to be a faction you're going to want to have up and running as much as possible, and it's not going to go in vain. Like, there are some teams out there that you don't really want to gear up, that you're forced to, kind of like a lot of the Rebels, that we don't really want to gear up. There's not too much use out of all the Rebels right now, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you gear up the Geonosians, even if you don't have all the Zetas, I think the one Zeta you really need to have is going to be the Queen's Will, to get that taunt up right away in the Geonosian Brood, or the Brutes. This is going to be a team that's going to pay off, and with Grand Arena trying to be the new core of the game, this is going to be a very good team, both offensively and defensively. The one funny thing, though, I got to point out that, I mean, the team pretty much took out the first order pretty easily. However, going up against Kylo Ren at the very end, Kylo Ren Unmasked, they couldn't do it. They didn't have healing immunity. They had no true way of taking out Kylo Ren Unmasked because their damage output wasn't high enough, and their debuffs were just kept healing up Kylo Ren Unmasked. So that turned out to be a timeout battle. So most likely you don't want to bring Geonosians up against a Kylo Ren Unmasked Zeta, and you don't want to bring Kylo Ren Unmasked Zeta up against the Geonosians because they don't really have the firepower to take it out. So you most likely want to have first order on defense to try to stop the Geonosians in their current state from trying to defeat you. Overall, though, this is such an exciting and fun team. Too much fun, but it's going to be too annoying for people not running this team, or who just have to go up against it. And the fact that this is one of the first free-to-play characters that went straight free-to-play in such a long time is such a breath of fresh air. We don't get this type of love anymore in this game, and the only reason why they did that is because it's important for Geonosis territory battle, and I'm guessing they don't want to paywall the Wat Tambor too much. It's already bad enough it's kind of hard to compete in Geonosis territory battles, so they're making it pretty free-to-play accessible, kind of like what they did of Colonel Stark at the beginning of Hoth territory battles, as well as Captain Han. So that's going to be it for my initial impressions of the Geonosian Brood Alpha at 4 stars, 4.mods. So there's so much more potential in this team that I didn't want to show you guys, because I want to show you something that might be more realistic for people in the current state of where they're playing at in the game. So let me know down below, what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to make this team a lot better with those future reworks that we're going to be getting soon? Would love to hear your thoughts, and I can't wait to see how this team's going to pan out, and it's definitely going to be something I'm going to be focusing on in the near-term future. Like the video if you did enjoy, comment down below, people, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing. So much happening in the game right now, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Peace out, everyone.